Science, technology, and innovation, STI, are relevant drivers for growth and development of nations of the world, including Nigeria. Development experts say these tools have become necessary if development is in view across sectors of many economies, with our dear country Nigeria not left out. STI helps to stimulate better outcomes, promoting ease of doing business and learning, reduce costs, and enhancing productivity. And so today on the program, your enlightenment program is here to focus on the relevance of STI, and we will be on the relevance and the role of STI for the development of nations, with a special reference to Nigeria. I am Ile Emeje, your host, welcoming you to a very, very interesting episode of the program, because I am going to be joined by two guests on today's episode who will be sharing their perspective on how science, technology, and innovation communication can accelerate national development. Also, they will be talking to us about the upcoming first National Conference of Science, Technology, and Innovation Communication, tagged STICOMS 2025. My guests are Dr. Bosco Okolo Obi, who is the head Department of General Studies of the African University of Science and Technology here in Abuja. And I also have with me Mr. Olusegun Ayeoyekon, Director of Information, National Agency for Science and Engineering Infrastructure, NASENI. He is also the Secretary of the Programs and Technical Committee of STICOMS 2025. Both of them will be coming up to share their perspectives on the topic and the upcoming conference on STI communication hosted by the African University of Science and Technology. We'll be back immediately after the timeout.
We are a nation blessed with people of diverse cultures, religions, languages, and opinions. It is ironic that we are now being ripped apart by our greatest strength, our diversity. We have allowed intolerance, insensitivity, bigotry, and nepotism to blind our vision of the greatness we can achieve working together as one. We may not have the same culture, nor religion, nor language, but we all belong to the same nation by the divine will of God. We did not choose to be Nigerians. Nigeria chose us. This nation is our divine heritage, and if we open our eyes, we would realize that what divides us pales in comparison to what unites us. And by the comparison and conciliation of our differences, we will grow until our differences disappear. Our unity cannot be willed by mere declarations, nor do we get unity by ignoring the questions that beg for answers. We must celebrate our diversity and debate our differences without fracturing our unity. Our strength is not in our numbers, but in our unity, because even the weak become strong when united. Nigeria unite.
This message is brought to you by Abuja Broadcasting Corporation, owners and operators of ASO Radio 93.5 FM Abuja, ASO Television DSTV Channel 392, Star Times Terrestrial Channel 127, Free TV Channel 507, People's TV Channel 285, and UHF Channel 38.
Thanks so much for spending your time with us on today's edition of the program. We are so glad to have you on this interesting episode of the program. And like I said earlier, my guests are here. And I'm going to start with Dr. Bosco Okolo Obi, who is the head of Department of General Studies, African University of Science and Technology. Doctor, you're welcome to the program.
Yeah, thank you, Ma. Thank you for having us here today.
All right.
It's a pleasure.
Okay. Doctor, experts have asserted that science, technology, and innovations are critical means to economic sustainability of nations of the world, including Nigeria. How do you agree or disagree to this?
Yeah, well, I very much agree with that. Globally, we are in the fourth industrial revolution. Yeah. And if you go from the first, to the second, to the third, and to the fourth industrial revolution, it's always been driven by science, by technology, by innovators. All the great technologies that we now enjoy today in the world globally is as a result of people's ideas, people's inventions, and sometimes these things start from research centers and they are developed into products, and you have people within the private sector who help scale these things.
Okay.
Some other times they start as a product of policy, government policy, which are necessitated by the needs of the specific environment, and innovators now help drive this policy to ensure that the outcomes drive national development. So science is very critical. Science, technology, very critical in nation development. You can't do away with it, and that is the striking difference between developed and underdeveloped countries. So if you look at all the 4 areas that I've mentioned, you can easily situate where a country is if you just oppose it with the metrics of their development. So you can say, for example, that most countries are still struggling in the paradigm of the second industrial revolution. They are still struggling with things like light, electricity. They are still struggling with things like communication. And so you can't take science away from national development. It's just a given.
All right. Okay. To you, Mr. Olusegun Oyenikon, you are the Director of Information, National Agency for Science and Engineering Infrastructure, NASENI, and you are also the Secretary of the committee for the upcoming conference. Do you have anything to add as it has to do with science as being a very critical tool for the development of all nations of the world?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Just like Dr. Bosco has said, the mark of difference between a developed country and the one that is not developing is basically, the applications of science and technology. When you have this as a problem in a country, mostly third world countries or developing countries, like most countries in Africa, maybe apart from South Africa, all of us, African countries are still battling with how to even differentiate between what science is and what science has to do. Basically, science is the knowledge of the environment, the knowledge of the structure and the nature of the environment. That is science. When you put this knowledge together and you transform it into tools to deal with agriculture, to deal with water, to deal with communication, to deal with industrialization, then you have application of science and technology. So it is key. And like I said in my earlier remark, that what separates the big boys of economic development and global participation in economies of the world, the wealth that is in the world, is whether you are using science and technology to drive your economy or you are not using it. Once you are not using science and technology to drive your economy, you are the backyard of economic activity. So this conference, for example, what we want to do is that we are bringing the awareness. We don't want science and technology to be at the backyard of our development plans and implementation. We want science and technology to now be a culture and to be at the center, in fact, to drive our economic planning and implementation.
Okay. Doctor, if STI, Science and Technology and Innovation, as you have mentioned, that it is very critical to the development of nations. Now, as a science and technology-based institution where you work, that is the AUST, what is the African University of Science and Technology doing within the STI space?
Okay, thank you for the question. First, I'll start by saying that AUST was actually established to deal with the gap in our utilization of science and tech, and that's why we have the name. So our history is deeply embedded in accelerating the development of Africa through science and tech. So we run degree programs. First, it started as a research training centers to train researchers in several different areas of sciences. And over the years, we've had remarkable progress in the area of training researchers. But beyond that, I also see AUST as an entrepreneurship university. So because if you develop science without impacting real world issues, then the science is useless. So what we have done over the years is to link the understanding of science with the needs of our environment. And that's why I said AUST is not just a science university, it has become an entrepreneurial university. So one of the things that we have done over the years, apart from training researchers, one, we've set up a hub, a digital hub, in partnership with industry. So in partnership with CC Hub, we set up the AUST Inspire Hub, where we incubate ideas from the point of ideation to the point where it is ready for the market. And we are doing this thing in collaboration with researchers working in our labs, with the private sector, and with the government. And so we have several products that have been bettered as a result of this model. So we adopt the triple helix model, which links academia, industry, and the government. And even currently, we have several projects, one of which is a Naseni Delta project that was developed in the lab to transform biomass into products. And this is currently going on campus. And just to end with this, they've just concluded Academy of Engineering conference that was held. The AUST team coveted the national award for developing a 3D filament recycler. So we are developing products, and the prototype is there in our lab. And we are working with industry to see how we can take this prototype from our labs and take it into the market. So a lot is happening with AUST within the science space. And one of the things that we have now identified is the lack of interaction between all the stakeholders within the space. Everybody is doing something. So you hear shortly from my colleague. Obviously, he will tell you what Naseni is doing. But the disconnect is the communication linkage. Okay. And we can't work in pockets and achieve the kind of result we want to achieve nationally. Okay. So the conference seeks to bring stakeholders together on one table, on one platform, to find a way to interact. And that's why it's not just science, technology, and innovation conference. It has the communication component is the central driver of this conference, because we want people to talk to each other. Okay. So that's what we are doing in this space. We are training researchers, we are incubating businesses, and we are building platforms to bring together everyone within the space to communicate with each other and work with each other to drive national development. Okay, now, if you have all of this, you have an Inspire Hub, you train entrepreneurs, technologists, and the rest of them across Nigeria and African countries, like you mentioned. How come we have the gap between research production and real-world impact? Because if you look at Nigeria has many universities and research agency. Why the gap between research production and real-world impact? Why? Okay. So, like I mentioned earlier, one of the things that we have identified critically is the lack of communication. We are making impact in different pockets. So, in the academia, we are making impact by doing our research and publishing papers. The industry is also making their own impact in society. The government also have beautiful programs that they are rolling out year by year. But there is no connection. That's what I think is the missing link. So at AUST, we are adopting the triple helix model. And the triple helix model simply brings everybody together. I want a situation where the government has, for example, let me just use this as a typical example. The government right now is pushing the CNG adoption. In my thinking, research institutions should now focus on ways to help government enhance this program by producing the data needed to make certain decisions within that sector. We are looking at a situation where we can now encourage industries to feed off from the data being generated by the university to now establish businesses that would align with government policies.
Okay.
Because since the government is interested in pushing CNG adoption, it means that government will back whatever product comes out of such collaborations.
Yeah.
But what you find is that in most universities, I'm an academic, so I'm guilty of this. Because we need to do research, it's part of our mandate, so we research and we publish it in journals. If you download journal articles, they are published in technical languages, very technical language. So the man in the industry might not understand the language of the guy in the lab. And then some of these journals, you need to pay to even access them. So how can SMEs, for instance, or the informal sector, which is arguably one of the largest job creators in the country, how can they benefit from this knowledge even if it exists? They don't have access to it, one. Number two, even when they can access it, it comes at a very steep price, and they can't even understand the language. So you need someone to also explain what the research output would look like. So what we seek to do is to bridge that gap that we have identified. Okay. So to answer the question, the gap exists because there is a communication gap between the academia, the industry, and the government. And again, this is, you can put the blame anywhere you wish, because we are all doing things at our own, on our own different part of the world, but we need to come together. And like Mr. Shegun said, science needs to be at the front burner, not at the back. It shouldn't be an afterthought. Science should be at the front burner, because countries that have advanced to the point of being tagged developed countries did that with science, nothing else. Right. Science, technology, and innovation. And that has to come to the front burner to drive our economic development. Okay,
you pointed collaborations, partnership, which is also critical to achieving objectives or implementation of goals, like you said. What are you doing, or what has the AUST done to ensuring effective collaboration and partnership with the stakeholders in order to achieve these objectives?
All right, thank you. The conference, for example, let me use as a practical example. This conference came as an idea from someone in the industry, not even in the university. So he identified a problem, approached the university, and the university set up a team to look at it and found it to be true. So AUST is ever open to collaboration, and in my responses so far, I have pointed out several collaborations that we have with industries, we have with government. So for example, the Naseni Delta 2 project, which is currently ongoing on campus, I hope that one of these days that your team can come on campus to see where we are recycling biomass, things that people trash. We are recycling it to products that we can buy in the market. And this is currently ongoing. Then at the AUST Inspire Hub, we have a beautiful setup where we incubate businesses, small-scale businesses, tech startups within the incubation hub. If you have an idea, come to AUST. Then, even within the university, we have a lot of collaborations with other universities from outside the country, several collaborations that have resulted to a lot of product and development within the science and tech space. Like I mentioned, just in the last Academy of Engineering conference, AUST won the first prize because we developed a prototype. We developed a prototype of a 3D filament recycler, which was displayed during the Academy event. Okay.
I will also take you up on the sub-themes of this conference and the impact that the AUST has made on the general economy, the economy of Nigeria and Africa through science and technology. But before then, let me just take up Mr. Olusegun. Mr. Olusegun, you are the Director of Information, National Agency for Science and Engineering Infrastructure, which is NASENI, and you are the Secretary, the Programs and Technical Committee, STICOMS 2025. How does this conference align with the strategic objective of the government?
Now, the government has a responsibility to, a basic responsibility to, to provide the environment, the enabling environment for the citizens to thrive.
Yeah.
In the area of economy, the government has a responsibility to secure the country, for people to go about their businesses. The government has a responsibility to provide infrastructures. The government has a responsibility to make life, comfortable for the citizens.
Yeah.
Now we have said on this table that all these objectives of government, are compromised or are mad because there is not much efficiency. The strategy to use to get these things done, is where science and technology come in. Just as I said earlier. Now, the strategy to use to get government to provide water, the strategy to use to get more government to do good roads, the strategy to use to get government to secure the country, the strategy to use to improve the economy, I have said, and just like my colleague has said, lies critically on the applications of science and technology and innovation.
Okay.
All right. So my agency, for example, our mandate is to do research, and produce products, technologies, capital goods, and equipment that help, the economy to thrive. You know where we are in this studio.
Yeah.
If you assess here,
Yeah.
what is happening now, and people are hearing us on the other side, it's because technology is
Nothing but
applied.
technology, yeah.
Technology, what is technology? Technology is the application of the knowledge that is derived from science, worked on by engineering, innovation, and it becomes what we have now. So the journey of science, the journey of technology begins from science and innovation. Just like Mr. Bosco said earlier, that it is over time in the history of man. The reason why we have new things, new products, new ways of attending to health, new ways of solving water problem, waterborne diseases problem, the new ways to is basically because human beings are dealing in research, they are innovating, and people are doing business with these innovations. That's why you have eyeglasses. Somebody went to school to study ophthalmology,
yeah.
and from there he knows that eye has problems, so they will use glasses. So somebody is fabricating glasses, somebody is doing all the work, so you have a glass. Do you understand? So the journey of every technology is science. Now, for NACENI, our mandate is I mentioned earlier, is to provide all this infrastructure,
yeah.
whether in aviation, whether in water, whether in good roads, we have to produce the capital goods and equipment. The idea behind NACENI was that these things, we should be able to produce them locally. And if you produce them locally, you'll be able to create jobs. If you produce them locally, you'll be able to optimize the use of the natural and material and the human resources that God gives to us as a nation. So NACENI is at the center of coordination for resources, human and material resources, to be converted for our use. You understand me? So, like the NACENI we have under the leadership of Mr. Khalil Suleiman Halilu, the new executive vice chairman,
yeah.
Is open to collaboration, and that's exactly why as soon as the AUSC appointed me as a member of this, he gave an express approval. He said, go and work with them. We have a principle of collaboration, creating and commercialization. So any way there is opportunity for NACENI to collaborate, that's what we do. The executive vice chairman has given us the platform for everybody to look for how to work with. Because the thing is that no one person, no one institution, no matter how beautiful your mandates are, no one institution can achieve all this, can tackle all these challenges I've just mentioned. So this conference, just like Mr. Bosco said, is providing an opportunity for everybody to be brought into the same room, share responsibility, share resources, work together, because Nigeria is our country. And therefore, if the secrets of other developed countries are known to us, so why don't you bring it to the table? We have just said now that we all agree here, myself and Mr. Bosco, that without science and technology innovation, life is miserable. All right? The tools that our fathers had been using before we were born is still what they are using. If you go back to the villages, you still see our parents carrying hoes.
Cutlasses and
They still carrying cutlasses. Meanwhile, agriculture has advanced way, way, way beyond that level. To the point that you can imagine what a man with a cutlass will do for a whole week. One tractor will clear the entire place within 1 hour. So he has time. He has to conserve more energy for other things. So technology is more or less like the application of science, which is what we are all trying to, bring to the issue of communication. It means exchanges. You government. Okay, let's look at it. Government the government want to develop Nigeria. That's the truth. The government is sincere, all right. Okay. But how to go about it is when the problem begins from. Which strategy? What do we invest in first that will cause a spiral effect, positive effect to draw other resources of development? That's where the government, is having issues. The government has to get it right. What do you get right? Put science and technology at the front burner. What is science and the knowledge of how things work? When you get the knowledge of how things work, you now know the strategies of what you develop the strategy of how to make everything else to revolve around it like a hub, and then you'll be able to move this country, our country, from where we are now to where we expect to be. Nigeria is blessed. Nigeria as a country is blessed with human and material resources. Right. The challenge is how do we convert these resources? Okay. And that is where science, technology, and innovation comes in.
Okay, one of your mandates as Neseni is to ensuring that you fabricate equipment, machines to improving the general economy of Nigeria. And now you are in partnership with the AUST for the upcoming conference. Tell us your role as Naseni in this conference. What should be the outcome? What are we going to expect from you as Naseni? Okay. And how this is going to impact the general economy of Nigeria and the entire African countries? Okay.
Now, Naseni is a core stakeholder, in the science, technology, and innovation ecosystem in Nigeria. And our mandate, like I mentioned earlier, is to fabricate machines, equipment, do research, transform research results into products. From products, you commercialize, and you keep innovating. Commercialize means you take it to the market so that people can work together with you and apply it in all spheres of life and get development to our country. Now, Naseni has nothing less than 13 to 14 institutes. We are working, all right? But just like Bosco pointed out, what you are doing, if you are not working with others, it becomes an isolated thing. And because the country is so big, it will look as if you are not doing anything.
Anything at all.
You understand? So working with others in form of collaboration apart is the new deal. Because you are doing your own thing. When we bring it together, then it becomes a mass of big impact. Because we are now working together. What you don't have that I give it to you. You share responsibility, you share strategy, and we set goals for ourselves. Where you are strong, you bring it to where you are. I will supply strength to where you are weak. You supply strength to where I am. So the essence of this conference is to bring everybody, just like Bosco said, into the same room where we now say, we develop together, our strategy together. All those serious countries, when they come together and devise their means and they don't tell you. The only thing you see is action. You understand that? So we too, as a country, want to pull everybody that is doing science, research, innovation, business people, industry, policy makers. We want to be in the same hall and look at the challenges of our country and one by one set goals for ourselves. You go and do this, you go and do policy maker, even the political class. We are bringing the politicians, the political class into this meeting so that they can hear, they can hear in real time the practicality of what we are saying, so that from going forward they can use this sector, to drive our economy. And we are not just we have practical country examples. Let me give this example. In 1965, 1965, Singapore was sent out of Malaysia. They chased them away because they felt that Malaysia thought that Singapore could not add anything to them. So they were set apart. But God gave them a leader, Lee Kuan Yew. All right? Lee Kuan Yew, pulled the people together and said, don't worry. Form alliance with Britain, it just brought people together. After 40 years, 50 years, Singapore, now you can check. Singapore is the country that has the highest, among the countries, 5 countries that has the highest per capita income. That is what somebody can earn. What a typical and average person in Singapore can earn as high as $400,000 per year. I'm telling you, check the information. What happened? Because the people went inside, they went inward, they looked inward with their leader, Lee Kuan Yew, and they used science and technology, simply science and technology, to drive their development. And today, Singapore is an advanced country. You can't put Singapore aside. What about China? You know, the secret of, what about Japan? The secret of development is basically, what about Israel? You know, Israel got independence just 1948. Look at Israel today. Advanced economy, military science, all industrialized everywhere. You see them. So we are saying that this conference, you know, is to bring everybody that love Nigeria together. All right? Everybody that knows that Nigeria should be better than where we are. This conference is bringing all of us together to create awareness, to draw people's attention to the real deal that is hidden. You know, those things that are secrets of advancement. That's what we want to bring to the fore.
Right.
That's our intention.
The secret is going to be brought to the fold, and
Yeah.
it will be to the benefit of
Of-
all
yeah,
stakeholders, all Nigerians, all
yes.
business
Yes,
people,
yes.
and irrespective of the
Yes,
sector
yes,
that
yes.
you belong.
Yeah.
All right, thank you so much. Doctor, you are the chairman of the organizing committee on the upcoming first National Conference on Science, Technology and Innovation Communication by the AUST. What is the goal of this conference, and what will be your advice to the public on key expectations from this conference? Your role and the key expectations from this conference.
Okay. Let me even start by thanking the president of the African University of Science and Technology, Professor Peter Onwalu, FAS, for the opportunity that he's giving me to chair the LOC. It's been an eye-opener. A lot is going on in the country, like I've earlier mentioned, and my colleague from NASENI has just highlighted what NASENI is doing.
Yeah.
We have well over 200 plus national research agencies and institutes. So if everyone comes to tell you what they are doing, you discover that we are doing a lot, right? So what is my role as the LOC chairman? Well, my role is to bring people together who share the same passion, whether from industry, from the academia, or from the government, to help plan this national event. This is the first of its kind. And it has to happen. We all need to be in a room and have a conversation about the future of this country. And if you look at the sub-team, you see that the LOC have worked tirelessly to align the goal of the conference with all the developmental challenges that we currently face as a country. And like my colleague from NASENI just mentioned, you need science to solve this problem. The practicality of science is what will help us get out of this problem. So, how have other countries done what we want to do? How have they developed? So he's giving examples from Singapore to China, and we can see the template. In other words, what he calls the secret. We can see the template, and we can see the centrality of science in the advancement of these economies. So as an LOC, one, we've brought together some of the best teams, that can help drive the organization of this program. And you have people from industry, people from the academia, and people from the government. Like I said earlier, we adopted the triple helix model, which is what we think at this time that we can use to drive our development as a country. So the other thing that we have also done, we are reaching out to stakeholders, because you see, this is not an academic conference. We don't just want researchers to gather like they gather every year to talk to researchers.
I was coming to that question.
Okay, so I preempted it.
Yeah.
So we don't just want researchers to gather and talk about theoretical frameworks and talk about procedures and experiments. Those things are good, But the question is, after that, what next?
What next?
Yeah. So we need to ask that question in one room. And those guys who we ask those questions are people in the industry. So how is this research beneficial to the farmer in Zamfara?
Yep.
How is this solution, how can it solve the insecurity that we experience in all parts of the country, from the northwest to north central to southeast? There's insecurity everywhere. How have countries adopted technology for things like surveillance, for things like real-time monitoring, right? So these things, if you ask the academics, they will give you a lot of genuine solutions. So why not bring everybody together? So the policy guys who are in the best position to make policies that will drive this thing, we hear directly from the horse's mouth.
Okay.
So that's what we have done. We've built a very strong and robust LOC using the triple helix model, so everybody is well represented. And now we are reaching out to the wider stakeholders, those in government, those in the private sector, those in the financial sector, those in even smallholder farmers. So we are reaching out to commodity associations, right? Because we also need to reach out to the end users, the farmers in the village. What are their problems? And we've identified in our sub-teams some of these areas where we want to focus, because we feel that if we deal with these things first, then we can accelerate the development of this country. And thanks to technology, we are now in the age of artificial intelligence, where it's now easy to do a lot of things than it used to be before. So we need to take advantage of it, and that's what we have done as an LOC.
Okay, can we be right or wrong to say now that this conference will not go down the way of other conferences we've had in the past for lack of supervision and monitoring? Because we've had a lot of conferences, just like you say, conferences, programs, initiatives, robust policies from either the government or economic stakeholders in Nigeria in the past, and it ended at just the conference. No implementation, no achievement, no objectives was realized or achieved. Are we be right to say that this particular conference will not go the same way others went? Do you have any institutional framework you have put on ground to ensure that this will be impactful on those that need it to be?
Absolutely.
General public.
Absolutely. So, like Mr. Shegun mentioned, I think he even answered the question, is that most times what you need to sustain some of these initiatives is the willing leadership. So you can't take leadership. If you have this conversation outside of leadership, it may end up as a wishful thinking, because you need leadership to drive it. You're talking about national development. You can't exclude those who have been elected to drive national development out of the conversation. And that's what I feel like we have been missing in some of these our conferences.
Okay.
So we are reaching out to government directly. We are reaching out to ministers, we are reaching out to state governors to participate in this conference. We are reaching out to key ministries and agencies to participate in this conference, because they are the ones who are empowered to develop policy, to advise even the president, right? So we are bringing everybody to this room. And secondly, like Mr. Shegun said, this is not a conference where you just talk and go. We are going to share resources. We are going to share responsibility with clear timelines. So you go and do this. You go and do this. And in that framework, there is a monitoring part of it. And this is not going to be a one-off conference.
Okay.
Annually, we'll gather to say, okay, so we have been able to achieve this in the last 12 months. So what is the next step?
Okay.
In this conference, we are going to draw a strategic roadmap for implementation, so that we can say in the next 20 years, this is what we think if we implement it within the science ecosystem. And we keep talking to each other, because that is what is most important. One of the problems that we have in this country is that sometimes you go to 2-3 agencies and they are doing almost the same thing. and they don't even collaborate.
Duplication of mandate.
Yeah, duplication of mandate, and not just that, they don't even communicate. So and sometimes they even work against each other. You know, that's what we want to, you know, be done with that era. So we bring everybody into the table, assign responsibility based on your strength. What can you do? Then we are able to now monitor and come back next year and look at how far we've gone. If we need to tweak something within the system, we tweak it, and then we keep pushing it until we achieve it. This is the only country we have. I don't hold a passport to another country. This is the only country I have.
You want to Japa?
And I think that passionate Nigerians, I've met passionate Nigerians. You need to come to our LOC meetings. You see passionate Nigerians doling out ideas on how we should move this country forward. And genuinely, we have leaders who also want to move the country forward. But most times, you try something, it fails. You try something, it fails. So we are bringing everybody together. If you have the solution, this conference is for you. Don't come to the TV channels and then you lambaste every stakeholder for not doing something. Come to this conference and let us put our heads together and understand what needs to be done and communicate it in a way that everybody in the room understands. And then we can now start holding people accountable, because if they know and they understand it, it means that if it doesn't happen, they are not taking action. So we can hold them responsible.
Okay. For the want of time, we may have to round off here. But before we wind up, I would want you to give your advice. What is your advice to the government and to the generality of Nigerians on the benefit of the STI and this conference? In some few seconds.
Okay. So this conference is for everyone. It's for everyone, whether you're a researcher, whether you're a policymaker, whether you're in the private sector, in the financial space, in the fintech space, even in the blockchain space. You have very young people who have, you know, done a lot of beautiful work within the blockchain space. But again, a lot of miscommunication. The blockchain industry has been reduced to just cryptocurrency. And that's just one of its applications. So we are talking to these people, we are talking to the government, obviously, they are part of the conference, the organization of the conference, and we are talking to anyone, any Nigerian, even development partners who have invested interest in seeing this country transformed. We are bringing everyone to the table. We've written letters to these agencies, and we are visiting them, talking to the heads of these agencies. Please register your members to attend. Most of the MDAs have communication department or a unit. They have staff in those places. Send them. A component of this conference will also include training. So when you're doing something in your MDA, you need to say it so that people will know, so that people who need the information can tap into it as an input for their own innovation. So that's what we are doing. So I would advise everyone to visit STICOMs at AUST, www.sticom.aust.edu.ng. When you visit the website, you will see everything you need to know about the program. For the want of time, I won't be able to say all of that. And of course, there is a call for abstracts. Again, for researchers, for policymakers, send in your abstract. We are receiving abstract until the 30th of September. Thank you so much.
On a lighter note, you are here to invite the media. I don't know if you have us at the center of your conference.
I said everyone. In fact, the media is in the middle of the conference. You are in the middle of the conference because this is a communication conference.
All right.
So thank you so much.
All right, Mr. Shogun. As Naseni, what should be our outcome? What should be the expectation from this conference? In rounding.
Yes. Thank you so much. My own parting statement is that we should just believe that a new Nigeria orientation is emerging, because this is more or less the first time people awareness had come to this point where a group of persons can say there's need for a communication conference for science and technology. It's a new thing. We have been in the industry for almost 30 years practicing. So this is the first time people are coming together to say, see, there's something we are missing in our development journey. So let's come together. Then for Naseni, see, we have a new Naseni under the leadership of Executive Vice Chairman, Mr. Suleiman Khalil Halilu. Naseni is ready to work with everybody because we have a national mandate, to provide infrastructure for development. And I've mentioned all the sectors of the economy. So this conference is particularly Naseni's own baby in the sense of it. That is, this is an opportunity for us to showcase to the nation that, see, we have a responsibility, to provide infrastructure, capital goods, equipment, platforms for development to begin to take place. And the products are there. Naseni has nothing less than 14 institutes that are doing fabrication, equipment, manufacturing, every sector. But the truth is that we need patronage, all right? We need stakeholders to know what we are doing. We need stakeholders to buy into what we are doing, so that we can actually together develop our country. So the agency, like I mentioned, is ready to work with everybody. And thank you so much for this opportunity. All right,
the agency is ready to work with everybody, and I am hopeful that after all of this, we'll have a reduction in the unemployment rate that we have or we experience in Nigeria. And that is the package that we have today for you from the economy and inside agriculture. The guests we have been speaking with are Dr. Bosco Okolo Obi, who is the head, Department of General Studies, African University of Science and Technology, and he is also the chairman of the LOC for the upcoming conference. Doctor, I want to thank you for finding time to be on today's edition of the program.
Thank you, ma, for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Okay, I also have with me Mr. Olusegun Ayeoyenikon, Director of Information, National Agency for Science and Engineering Infrastructure, NASENI. He is also the Secretary to the Programs and Technical Committee of STICOMS 2025. We are so grateful to have you.
Thank you so much, man. It will be on record that the ASO TV is the first television to interview the people who are driving this conference. So it will be on record. Yeah.
So it's kudos to us.
Yeah, kudos to you.
All right. And to our esteemed audience out there, we want to appreciate you for branching off on today's edition of the program. Take advantage of this conference and improve your well-being as well as the gross domestic product of Nigeria. I say good day to you. I am Ile Energy.